Your pal will be with you in a second. Getting everything set. God. Every day I feel like I'm getting a little older. Yeah, well, because you are, bonehead. Yes, I guess I am. All right, that should give me power. Give me 1 second. Yes, let's see. The magic desk should go up. Yes, it will. Want to see it? See? Little button. Makes it go up. So this way I can do a real Facebook Live. Hold on 1 second. Let's see where we are. That should be it. Bear with me. We're going to have a good Facebook Live here today. Yep, some good topics. Let's see where we are. We head level? Yep. Yeah, I got to raise it high to be... Oh my goodness. Went to go get a haircut yesterday, and my hair cutter is in Saudi Arabia. May have to rethink that one. Anyway, before you know it, I'll have the FBI coming to me. All right, nah, kidding. He's a great guy, great guy. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of things today. Hold on, I want to get some of this stuff up here. We are going to talk about lots of stuff. And I just want to give you a forewarning about the lots of stuff that we're going to discuss. Some of you ain't going to like what I have to say. You're not going to like what I have to say. And I'm sorry about that in advance. But I think that you have come to trust me. I hope you have come to trust me. And I hope that you have come to realize that I am more interested in giving you the truth than giving you what I think you want to hear. All right? So, before we get into that part, because that's going to be the part about what I have to say about President Trump. And before I get into that, I want to discuss a few things. There is a report that we put on DennisMichaelLynch.com earlier today. And unfortunately, for 2017, the murder rate in Chicago is outpacing the murder rate for 2016 if you take the same amount of days. So if you take the days that we've had so far in 2017 and you measure those exact days for 2016, we are outpacing last year. And last year in Chicago was an absolute disaster. Hold on. Hey, Tim, is that you? Yeah. All right. Just disconnect the existing Apple and hook up that new Apple and see what you could get going with it, okay? All right. I'm expecting Harlan will probably be here pretty soon. He's going to want to look to set up the monitor wall, so if you could do that with him. Yeah. All right, thanks, pal. Sorry about that. So the existing situation in Chicago is dire. It is completely dire. Now, here's the difference between what's going on in Chicago and, let's say, for instance, something that took place in Ferguson. You know, Ferguson was an event. Happened, then went away. Chicago has been the way it is now for quite some time. And nobody has done a single thing about it. Not a single thing. Now, I often talk about an array of topics, but there are certain topics that I can talk about more intelligently, more passionately than others, simply because I have lived them firsthand. This is one of those experiences. 2 years ago, I went to Chicago with my camera. And I have a good buddy who lives in the suburbs there in Naperville. And I said to him, look, man, can you get me a cop to take me around in the most dangerous areas of Chicago where they're all killing themselves, each other, I should say. And he says to me, you're out of your mind. Why do you want to go there? And I said, because I want to film it. Not only do I want to film it, I want to talk to people. I want to see what it is that they need in order to fix what's going on in Chicago. And at the time, I was exploring maybe running for office. And so I thought, I thought exactly what Trump thought later on, was that he would need the black vote in order to be able to win, and that he would need the black vote not to show up for Hillary in order to win, the combination of the two. But in addition to that, I generally really do care. I care. I want to see all of America's greatest cities be great again. And this is well before Donald Trump ever even thought about running for office, seriously thought about it or made his announcement. And so having traveled the country so many times back and forth over the last couple of years, I knew that I had to go to Chicago and ask people straight out what was actually happening. And the time that I had in Chicago was so eye-opening. It's to this day, it's still one of the most interesting days of my life. First of all, it started by hooking up with this cop. He was a white guy, Irish white guy, lived in the outskirts of Chicago, where it's still rather nice. And he said to me, you know, when he came out, he put on his, he was off duty at the time, and he put his bulletproof vest on. And I said, do I need one of those? And he said, you should have one. I said, well, do you have an extra? All I got is my camera. And he said, no, I don't have an extra. He goes, I only have my own. And I said, well, how, I mean, it's freaking 9 o'clock in the morning. Do I really need one of these things, seriously? And he says, it'd be better if you had it on. I mean, I was trying all I possibly could to get this police officer to tell me, don't worry about it. You really don't need it. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever. But he wouldn't go there. And that, number one, was scary to me. So, I mean, I got into the car, obviously, and we're going around, and he's taking me to the worst parts. I mean, the worst parts of Chicago, where people are basically getting killed in broad daylight all day long. And that's not an exaggeration. That is not an exaggeration when I say all day long. I mean, just on Wednesday, there were 7 murders in Chicago. 7 murders in Chicago. All of these people dead. One of them was a woman who was 8 months pregnant. So as we're going around, and you go in Chicago, you get this sense that it's not as bad as you hear about. I mean, because I've been in worse places where it just looks so, I mean, Detroit is a perfect example. You go through Detroit, you look like you're in Beirut, all right? So I'm going through, and I can't understand for the life of me why it's so bad here. And so we start pulling over and talking to people. And as we're pulling over and talking to people, I'm asking the question, and I'm getting the same answer over and over and over again. And that is, and this is, I talked to a father, I talked to a priest, I talked to a young mother, I talked to a kid, all right? They all said the same thing, and it was they weren't together. It was all separated, all right? As far as I know, none of them knew each other. And they all said that 90% of the crime is being committed by 10% of the people. 10% of the people are committing 90% of the crime. That means that 90% of the people who live in these areas in Chicago don't want this crap. And yet 10% is overrunning the neighborhoods. So I asked the cop, I said to him, why can't you guys stop this? And he says, we try. We try and try and try. But the drugs and the gangs, they keep popping up. He says, and there's just no possible way for us to stop what's going on for as long as the drugs are just filling in to this place. Because you can take away everything else and just keep the drugs, and the problem is going to remain the same. He says, you could put all these people back to work, rip away welfare, but keep the drugs in, the problem is going to be the same. And so I learned, and this is how depressing this is, I learned from these good people, African-American people, families, like I said, the priest, the kid, the whole 9 yards. They said that they have to get most of their day done in the mornings. And that's one of the reasons why the cop took me out at the time he did. Because between 6 a.m. and noon is when people go food shopping, is when people cut their lawns, is when people wash their cars, is when people do the basic things that you and I do all day long. And the reason being is because come 12:30 and 1 o'clock, the criminal element comes back out. The criminal element goes back out on the corner and starts selling drugs. The gangs start going through their gang war and their territory wars. And believe it or not, and it was spot on, the cop said to me, "You wait to see how many white people you wind up seeing here by 1 o'clock. I said, "Whoa, really?" And he says, "Yeah, white kids coming in from the suburbs, coming to buy their drugs here." I was blown away, absolutely blown away, because come 1 o'clock, it was like predicting that the sun was going to come up. Hold on. They all came. The cars started pulling up. The criminal element started coming on the corner. I mean, it was like it was orchestrated. It was almost as if a bullhorn went off, but I couldn't hear it because I'm not in the drug business. But the silent bullhorn, the whistle, the dog whistle, went off, and all the people came out. And that's when the cop said to me, "All right, man, we're done." I'm like, "Really? No, because the thrill guy in me, and I want to get all the great stuff." He says, "Listen to me. We're done." I said, "Can we just stick around for 5 more minutes? Let's go around one more time. I want to get one of these drug dealers on camera." He says, "You come back by yourself if that's what you want. We're done." One of the people who I interviewed, this priest, he said, when it's election time, these people come around and they try to get our votes. And then the minute that they get our votes, they never come back. They just never come back. And so cities within the city of Chicago have basically just been forgotten. They have been blown off like the ugly stepchild that nobody wants and just wants to tuck away. As far as I'm concerned, and if I were the president of the United States, or if I were the mayor of Chicago, and I know I'm starting to pick at people who are dirty and corrupt in some cases when you look at Chicago, I gotta believe it's not hard to collect the 10% of crap that is destroying that whole place. I look at America and I see a country that was able to land men on the moon. I look at scientific magazines that are in the doctor's office when I'm bored and I'm waiting to get my chance to go in, and I'm flipping around and I see that we can clone sheep. I look at the fact that we can have a singer at the Super Bowl come down on a big, huge hoisted rope and do this unbelievable performance, simulcasted all over the world. I look at all the things that we can do, like take a button and make my desk go up and down, basically by just hitting it. But we can't clean up the 10% of Chicago that's screwing up it for 90% of the people there? Why? I got the answer. It's the same reason why the border has been open for decades. No matter how much anybody screams, it's the same exact reason. There is no will to stop this. The 7 people who died on Wednesday are nothing more than a statistic on a spreadsheet. They are nothing more than just the cost of doing business in Chicago. That is the mindset, that is the rationale that has driven us to where we are in this country. And I'm picking on Chicago, but you can take Chicago and replace it with New Orleans or Detroit or any major U.S. city for the most part. In places in Indiana, Atlanta. I mean, I can just keep on naming the places. So why isn't it getting fixed? Well, the president, Donald J. Trump, turned around and sent out a tweet. And he said that in the tweet, that Chicago's a mess. 7 people died. Something's got to be done. Tweet. Okay. Sort of left it wide open. We understand that the problem exists, Mr. President. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I didn't go to college, but I certainly didn't need that tweet to let me know that we need to fix it. I would have preferred the tweet that said how we're going to fix it. Now, meanwhile, and I'm looking up, this is why my eyes have changed to the side, there is a statement from the Chicago police that has come back after President Trump made that, okay? And it says, Chicago's superintendent of police, Eddie Johnson, quickly hit back after Trump's tweet. And Trump's tweet was exactly this. What is going on there? Totally out of control, meaning Chicago. Something needs to be done. And he mentioned the seven people dead. It says, the following night, Chicago Superintendent of Police Eddie Johnson quickly hit back, saying his department has requested assistance from the White House, but still hasn't garnished a response. Johnson has released a formal statement about his city's violence problem. And President Trump. We have challenges with gun violence in several neighborhoods on the south and west sides of the city. It's unacceptable to me, to the mayor, and to everyone who lives in Chicago. We've made requests to the White House and to the Justice Department for them to support our work, from increasing federal gun prosecution to more FBI, DEA, and ATF agents, to more funding for mentoring, job training, and more. We're still waiting for the administration's response to our request. Now, again, I want to go back to Trump's tweet. Trump's tweet exactly was, 7 people shot and killed in Chicago. What is going on there? Totally out of control. Chicago needs help. I want to dissect this. And for those of you, I see right now I have about 4,000 people with me. The majority, I'm guessing, have been with me for quite some time, months, if not years. Maybe some of you are newbies. Let me be very explicit and very clear. I have supported President Trump every single last day since the day he came down those escalators. And I even suggested him as a name years ago when people asked about who should run for president. And long before I even thought about even thinking about running for office myself. But I hold everybody accountable, including myself when I make my own mistakes. 7 people shot and killed yesterday in Chicago. What is going on there? What is going on there? You don't know what's going on there, Mr. President? I think you do. Why do we need, this is when I get pissed off at these tweets. What is going on there? I'll tell you what's going on there. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out. I just explained it. In the simplest form possible. Because I actually got off my ass and went there and checked it out and seen it firsthand. It's not make-believe. It's not fake news. It's real. And it happens every single day. Next phrase, totally out of control. Okay, we sort of know that. Chicago needs help, exclamation point. Okay, well, aside from dissecting bit of the liberal response that we got from from the top cop, we'll call him that, in Chicago, from saying increasing federal gun prosecution. Right away, they want to go taking away guns. Now, he didn't necessarily use those exact words, but let's keep in mind that Chicago has some of the most strictest gun control measures in the country, okay? This is not about taking away guns. This is not about the Second Amendment on any level at all. This is about drugs. It's that simple. And a lot of people making money off those drugs. A lot of people being paid under the table to turn the other way, to look the other way. That's where this is happening. That's why this is happening. Okay? This does not take brain surgery. This is crime 101, and I'm not a cop. Today, President Trump spoke at CPAC. And it is my job to listen to President Trump speak at CPAC. And he did eventually, about a half hour in, mention this briefly. And when he mentioned it, he said 7 people got shot in Chicago. And he said, and if I believe right, they all died. No, if you believed right. You need to know that they all died. You need to know that they all died. If you believe right. They all died. They were shot and killed. All died. Including a woman who was 8 months pregnant. The issue I have, and I got to tell you, and I don't care, I look at the numbers. If the number drops in half right now, so be it. I'll be able to sleep at night. I will always know that I stay true to myself. I'm not going to sit here and just throw you sound bites that you want to hear. You can probably get that tonight at 10 o'clock on the Fox News Network. Or you could get that tonight from somebody else who just wants to turn around and literally kiss the buttocks of the president every night. That ain't me. If that's what you want, you're wasting your time. If you donated to me and you feel at this point you want your money back, send me an email. I'm here to tell you the truth. All eyes were on President Trump this morning at CPAC. He has been in office for 45 days, give or take. Not even 45 days. My goodness. 34 days. I apologize. There have been things that have been done in those 34 days. Good things that have been done. He should have came out at CPAC and immediately started in on that. He should have immediately said, before anything else, I want us right now to take maybe a moment of silence for the 7 people who lost their lives in Chicago 2 days ago. That's number one. Well, this is what I would say if I were president. So I'm not going to put something else in somebody else's mind. This is what I would say, and I think the people would appreciate it. Number 2, I would have spoke about exactly what it was that we have done and what it is that we're going to continue to do. And then, after I spent a couple of minutes talking about that, I would have taken the rest of the time to talk about how it is that I, as president, and we as people need to come together. Need to come together. I posted a poll on DennisMichaelLynch.com the other day, which asked you, what is the number one issue in America? I did it purposely, almost a little bit dishonest of me. I did it knowing that you would not pick the right answer. Most of you picked immigration. Secondly, you picked the dishonest press. The real biggest problem in this country right now, and you're talking to a guy who is a hawk on immigration, is that the fact that the country is so divided. It is so divided. Think about your own life. Think about your own family unit. Think about your family unit. And just let's assume for the moment that you're married and you got your kids at home. If you got 4 kids, I'll just use my home, okay? I got my wife Mary and I got my 4 children. If we are divided as a family, if we are continuously arguing all the time and we just can't get along, it doesn't matter if we've got the best health care there is in the country. It doesn't matter if I put up the greatest security fence in the world around my home. It doesn't matter if I'm collecting $1 million check every single week. It doesn't matter if we've got the best health insurance that the world can provide. It doesn't matter if Mary is gainfully employed and my children are gainfully employed. It doesn't matter, because if internally we are miserable and fighting with each other every single day, the rest of those things are moot. The rest of them are moot. And so long term, in order to be able to maintain those jobs and to maintain our health and to maintain prosperity and to maintain all those different other things that I talk about, there has to be cohesiveness inside the home. Now, I'm not saying that Mary and I can't ever have a disagreement, and I'm not saying my kids can't ever have a little fight together, but for the most part, we have to be together. A plane can't fly with one wing. It needs both wings. And so what I heard President Trump do today at CPAC was disappointing. It was very disappointing. I was disappointed. I was hoping he would address the fact that this nation is divided. And he didn't. What I think he did was he put a bigger wedge in it. He put more people who are waiting to embrace him. He pushed them away, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, okay, we hear it. The mainstream media, the mainstream media, fake news. I got news for President Trump. You're not the first guy on the Republican ticket to be kicked in the shins by the media. Mitt Romney was crucified by the media, crucified by them. They would write love pieces about Obama, and they would write stories about how it is that Romney was an evil man because he tied his dog to the roof, okay? Every single last Republican, every last conservative has been subjected to a media that is biased. It isn't fake news. It's biased news. Okay? It's biased news. And at the end of the day, how much of your life is actually affected by biased news? You ignore what you think is biased and you listen to what you think is not biased. And ultimately, the way that you make your decisions in life is based on your own experiences. I often talk to you about how it is that I even got started in the immigration game, right? How did I get started in the immigration game? Well, I fell into it. Yeah, I knew the word immigration. I heard the news stories periodically when I went back and forth. And when I actually went and started investigating immigration, I saw the fact that what I had been told on the news was not the same thing that was out there. But am I going to blame Fox and CNN and all these different other places for what's going on? No, my experience. I finally saw in my experiences that there were more people in my school district, that there were more people standing outside the Home Depot, that there were more Americans complaining about not getting a job because they don't speak Spanish than they had years before. The news had nothing to do with it. Nothing. The experience. The news could have told me that illegal immigration was off the charts terrible. And if there weren't any Spanish-speaking kids in my kids' class, I wouldn't have known what you're talking about. It's based on experience. So therefore, I full circle this back to the president. The way to beat the news is not by getting up at CPAC for 20 minutes and talking about the polls. He was talking about the polls. The polls are over. You're the president. The polls are over. People don't want to hear that anymore. One of your greatest cheerleaders. I don't want to hear it anymore. I just want to hear point blank how we're going to fix Chicago. I want to hear point blank about what we're going to do with Obamacare, because you're telling me that we're going to repeal and replace it. Vice President Pence is telling me we're going to repeal and replace it. But yet I got Republicans in town halls telling people that they're not going to lose their insurance and that we'll probably use Obamacare as a baseline to do something new. I got John Boehner, although at this point irrelevant, still somewhat in the know because he's got experience and he's got his hand in people who are still in Congress, telling an entire body of healthcare professionals that Obamacare is going to remain in play, that they're just going to wind up tweaking some stuff. I want to hear details about how you're going to do that, because you want to know why? I am personally right now drowning every single month in paying premiums that are just the size of a mortgage. I don't care about CNN and what poll they put out about you 6 months ago. I just want to know what you're going to do to fix the Obamacare, because these guys are saying they're not going to do it completely the way you're saying it. I want answers. This is why people are showing up. Now, some of you who are in complete denial, and I say this to you with all politeness, you're still of the mindset that don't worry about it. He said he's going to do it. It's going to do it. It just doesn't work that way. It's a team effort. This country doesn't give power just to one man to do everything on his own and that's it. Obama tried that. And let's not forget that we stopped Obama on a lot of his stuff. He wanted to give amnesty. The court stopped it. Congress did everything they could to stop it. The Gang of Eight bill didn't get passed. Okay? So let's not get blinded by what's not really true. All right? What's not really true is that Donald J. Trump, president, he's not going to be able to just repeal and replace without the assistance of the other people in Congress. And so people want to know more about what is exactly specifically going to be done here than fake news. And that's why I get frustrated. And I see our numbers have gone down by 700 people. God bless those 700 people, because Lord knows you need it. I get emails from people, probably the 700 who took off, asking me to confirm if George Soros has been arrested for hate crimes against the U.S. Of course, George Soros is a raging liberal that's going to do everything he can to sideline and derail Trump. Of course he's going to do that. He's a liberal. He's a nutty liberal. He's so far left, he's fallen off the left side of the building. You like that, Harlan?
I did like that.
Okay. I just made it up. Harlan's doing some work. I'll show you. There you go. But no, he wasn't arrested. If George Soros was arrested, I will guarantee you the following. Fox News, the Associated Press, Reuters, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, BBC, every single last place around the world that has any level of credibility will have it as a top headline. So when Newswire all day long, news.com, and you put it out and you start sharing it that he's been arrested, and you haven't even checked, that's a major headline that is going to be everywhere. You get it? Those are the 700 people who took off. The rest of you are saying, tell me, DML. Tell me. Yeah, I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, my track record is literally perfect when it comes to telling you what is going to happen. It's literally perfect. When all these other guys on the right, most of them, were all sitting there scaring you about Jill Stein. Oh, what's going to happen with Jill Stein? And then you had the Electoral College is going to blow up. You had all that stuff. All of it, right? And I'm talking about the Electoral College in December. They're not going to vote for him. They're going to pull their votes. And then before the election, one guy that I know of stood up and actually detailed on that map how that man would win. One guy got up and told you the day before it started, tomorrow you can bank on your life that they are going to start to say Trump can't win the Electoral College. I said all of this to you. The tapes are out there on Facebook. Just go to videos and look for the date. They're all there. I said to you in November, after he won the election, I said, nobody's talking about this right now, but you wait. They're going to use Russia. They're going to use Russia and every aspect of Russia to try to take down Trump and his team. They're going to use Russia because it is you are stuck in a corner. If he defends Russia and tries to make a relationship with these guys, they're going to say he's doing dirty stuff behind the closed doors. If he blows off Russia, then we turn around and we're just pissing off our one of our biggest foes. It's a no-win situation. I told you this. Nobody talked about Russia for the first couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it was like, Russia did the election. He's doing business with Russia. They were on the phone with Russia. Russia. Okay, DML, we get it. You know your stuff. Great. Mark my word. If the president does not change his tune soon, he's a 4-year guy. He's a 4-year guy. It is February 24th. For me to be sitting here ranting about why he's talking about the polls from last year, listen to what I am saying. You got a country divided. You got people showing up at town halls at record numbers. You got, and listen, don't tell me it's all paid protesters. It's not all paid protesters. It's a lot of people who are afraid that their Medicaid, their Medicare is going to be cut in half. It's people who are afraid that their health insurance is going to be cut and taken away. It's people who are generally scared, and they're just looking for answers. Some of these people are far left, yes. Some of these people are paid protesters and aggravators. They just want to aggravate everything. I get it. But there are a lot of people who are just very, very nervous about where things are going. And I am telling you, there is nothing better for the stock market, nothing better for consumer sentiment, nothing better for the job market, nothing better for the country when people are feeling calm. I asked you the other day how many of you have lost relationships because of your support of Trump. The poll came back 70% of you have lost relationships. 70% of you, which basically means I could line up 10 of you in front of me right now and say, raise your hand if you've lost a friend, a family member over your support of Trump, and the hand goes up. That's a lot. That's a lot. Do you know how many friends and family I lost over Obama? None. We just disagreed. And I turned out to be right. We have more debt. Our military is smaller. Our borders are wide open. Schools are getting infiltrated by people who can't speak English. The list goes, ISIS is real, and it's bigger. The list goes on and on and on and on. Part of what Trump has to do is he has to stop focusing in on how he's being attacked by the media and realize the fact that you can pull out Trump and put in Lynch. You can pull out Trump and put in Rubio. You can pull out Rubio and put in Cruz. You can put in any single Republican who would have won that election, and they would be under the same scrutiny. It's only exasperated because Trump kicks back really hard. And sometimes kicks when he doesn't need to kick. There becomes a time when you just let the press paint itself into a corner. Let the results show. Let me see and let the Democrats in my town see that less ESL services for children who don't speak English are being put into place. Let us see that there are less people standing outside the Home Depot begging me in Spanish if they can build the shed I just bought the wood for. Let us see the statistic that says 22 veterans who are killing themselves every day has gone down to 3. Let us see that Chicago no longer has 7 people dying on any given day. Let us see the wall go up. Let us see the Border Patrol be more happy. Let us see that. And when that happens, and that's going to take time, the result will be a press that has no other choice than to report the results. Keep in mind about one thing about President Obama, and I'm going to start to wrap up after this, but keep in mind one thing about President Obama. As much as I despised all of his policies, as much as some of his facial expressions and his ego got under my skin, he is so far one of the most effective presidents in our lifetime. What do I mean by that? I mean the fact that he had an agenda and he got it through. Devastating, and as far as I'm concerned, what he got through. But he got his agenda through. He didn't get his agenda by getting up every single day and yelling, kicking, and screaming at people. He did it by showering everybody with a big-ass smile. And while he was sitting there smiling to everybody, he had all of his soldiers out there working, getting everything done. President Trump, I know you're working hard, man. There's no question. I know you're working hard. I know you love America, and I know you love the people. I also know you love yourself. I also know you have an ego that is the size of the Grand Canyon. You can't get to where you are in this world without one. But there comes a time when leadership has to step in. There comes a time when we're going to beat them up so badly, don't you worry about it, you come to me. There comes a time when that's got to stop. There's got to be a time when those 70% of people who lost relationships, where maybe they could get them back, because it's easier for them to go and say, listen, man, he's really getting stuff done, you know what I mean? And he's not being combative. You know, being combative to get to where you had to be, to fight through that ugliness to get the presidency, I get that, man. I get it. It's an ugly war with all the ads and all the different stuff. But you're there now. You got the golden goose. You got the reward. You got the trophy. You got the seat in the White House. Take it. Bring people together. Be positive. Disagree when there's an article out there that's about you. Explain why that is not true, and then move on to the things that matters most to people: their jobs, their health, and the safety of their family. You get those things in order. You start talking in that way and drop this fake news narrative. Drop this, it's us against them. You could do the us against them, but I mark my word, I bet every last thing in this room, in this building, everything that I've done, I will quit 4 years from now if I am wrong. If he keeps this narrative up, he's going to be 4 years. 4 years. And it's done. And they'll get that White House back. Maybe even be Hillary. Who knows? They'll get that White House back. And they will put it right back. They'll put this country right back to where it was with Obama at the helm. I guarantee you that. And so for those of you who sit here and say, I don't know, DML, I'm not following you anymore. You know, if I wanted to hear this kind of stuff, I'd go to the other channels. Well, then maybe you got to go to the other channels. You know, maybe go to Alex Jones if that's who the guy is for you. You know, maybe that's what you need to hear. I'm telling to you straight out. I'm telling you straight out what is taking place and why it is that we have ourselves a problem brewing. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. I will end on this. The reason why I decided to have this discussion is last night I actually finished up work a little early, if you will. It was 8:30 at night. And so everybody else was sort of winding down, going to bed. Everybody's going to bed early in my house, whatever. So I started flicking around on television, and my goodness, there's nothing on TV anymore. So I went to Netflix and Amazon. I'm looking around. Nothing. I've either watched it already or, I don't have time to watch a series of some kind. So I went to documentaries. And there was a documentary there, which I said, you know what, I'll check this out, about Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins, in case you don't know, Tony Robbins is one of those self-help guys. He's, I guess he's, I don't know, how would you just, what is Tony Robbins?
He's like a self-help guru. Right?
A self-help guru, right? Yeah. Okay, and it's funny because actually the title of it was, I am not your guru. Yeah. And so I watched it simply because this guy brings in audiences of 2,500 people, once a month. And I was like, yeah, you know what? He's been doing it for 12 years, 2,500 people every single time. He must be saying something that's pretty interesting. So for the first time ever, they brought the cameras into one of his events and actually tracked it all. And so I was more interested in why people would come there than what it was he had to say. And so one of the things that took place in the events was that he made people actually identify what was keeping them back. He calls it breakthrough. What to have a breakthrough moment. And he's explaining to them that unless you go deep down inside, unless you really go deep down inside and admit of what is taking place in your life, you're not going to have a breakthrough. You're not. And so he would let people get up. He had this one woman get up, two women actually get up. The first woman got up, a young lady, 19 years old, and he said, so what is it in your life that's holding you back? Now, this girl was in great looking shape, right? Pretty young 19-year-old girl. And she says, my diet. I just can't seem to eat the right foods. Every time I go to grab bad foods, I don't know what to do. She starts ranting and raving. Now, who that looks like her goes to pay $5,000 to Tony Robbins if their problem is dietary, especially looking like she did? So either she's got a little bit up here or she's not being completely honest. So Robbins, being able to tell from her body language, finally gets her to admit that her father is a drug user and that she has this incredible pain inside, that she's very angry at her father. She's very angry at the fact that he has chosen drugs over her in her life. And so he told her, and I found this amazing, he told her to stop blaming her father for what he has done basically to himself and start thanking him, the fact that he was like that, because if he wasn't like that, she wouldn't be as strong as she was. And so I'm shortchanging this. I mean, if you were to watch it the whole way through, you would understand more maybe. And then he had another woman who was recently divorced, and she had a new boyfriend, and she was basically, it appeared as if she was going through the motions with the boyfriend just solely because she was trying to rebound and find new love. And Tony Robbins got her to admit that she really isn't happy with this guy, just sticking around, misleading this guy because it wasn't really the right one for her. And he made her call the guy on the phone in front of 2,500 people and admit that it really wasn't the right fit. And so what he did was he just, and everybody's sitting there crying. And all the stories are sort of like that, but in, different experiences. And so what he does is he's got this way of pulling out of people what really is the issue at hand. And so that's what I said, you know what? I got to sit down because, hey, he gets 2,500 people once a month. I get 4,000 or 5,000 every day. Now I'm down to 2,900, so people must think I'm boring. But I'm still beating Tony. And so the point was here today was that I wanted you to think a little differently. I don't want to beat up Donald Trump or our president. And somebody sent me an email yesterday saying, I love you, DML. Your passion for Trump and your passion for the American people. You got it wrong. I don't have a passion for Trump. I have a passion for America, to make America great again, and the American people. Trump just happens to be the guy who's in that position. All right? I do not have a Trump sweatshirt. Donald's the greatest guy. He's the president. I like his policies, but I want his policies to follow through. It's not about him. It's not about him. It's about your kids and about your life and about my kids and Harlan's life, and that's what it's for me. I'm not going to sit here and this is not about Donald Trump the guy. This is about President Trump. And so I like his policies. I want to see them come to fruition. I want to see everything that he said he was going to do. I want to see him do it. Because if he does do it, we're going to be such a powerful, great country again. And if he gets his face up on Mount Rushmore because of it, I'll be the first one to start chiseling the rock. But until you and I look deep down and really see where we are, we're not going to get to that place. That's my take. If I'm wrong, if this is the first time really that I'm wrong big time, well, I guess then that's okay, because I guess he'll have 8 years and we'll do, no matter what I win. But my concern is I don't think I am. I'm a good read on what's taking place. And I watched today, and when I literally watch him and say, ew, that's when I know that there's a real problem. I watched that today and went, ooh. How would I actually defend the first 20 minutes of that speech to my liberal friend who, although liberal, is still a very smart person and somebody who I love? We just disagree on some things, basically social things. What do I say? How do I defend that? Because I've already had to defend CNN 15 times about how it is that they're not putting out the right stuff because it's biased. My friend wants to know what's going to happen with his health insurance for his family. I have no answers. The only answer I have is we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Do you get it? So, for those of you who stuck with me because you believe in what I have to say, thank you. I appreciate it. For those of you who disappeared, you'll be back. I guarantee it. A little cocky on my end. But where else are you going to go? I guess you could go somewhere else where they're going to tell you the world is falling down. But it's not. All right. Till tomorrow. God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless the United States of America. And God bless Donald J. Trump. It's not easy being president. It's a lot easier criticizing him. But at the end of the day, just doing my job. In fact, Steve Bannon yesterday said, hey, keep us accountable. All right, Steve. Message heard, wish granted.